There are moments in life when everything starts falling apart at the same time. Not just one thing, but everything. Your plans stop working. Your motivation disappears. People you trusted start leaving. And the future you imagined suddenly feels unclear. And in that silence, something dangerous starts happening inside your mind. You start questioning yourself. Why is this happening to me? Did I do something wrong? Am I not good enough? Will my life ever change? And slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to believe the lie that nothing will ever get better. But listen carefully. That thought is not your destiny speaking. That is your pain speaking. Because pain always tries to rewrite your identity. But your identity is not defined by your current situation. Sometimes God allows your life to fall apart, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you correctly. Because if everything you built was based on the wrong foundation, it cannot survive your future. So God does something painful, but purposeful. He removes what is unstable. He closes doors you were emotionally attached to. He disconnects people who were not aligned with your destiny. And at that moment, it feels like loss. But spiritually, it is protection. Think about a seed. A seed never becomes a tree while staying on the surface. It must be buried. It must go into darkness. It must be covered. And from the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. But inside that darkness, something powerful begins. Growth that cannot be seen yet, but is absolutely real. And that is exactly what is happening in your life right now. Just because you cannot see progress does not mean progress is not happening. There are seasons in life where God works in silence, not because He is absent, but because He is building something too big to be explained early. If He showed you everything in advance, you might give up halfway. So instead, He guides you step by step, not with full visibility, but with trust. And trust is not built in comfort. Trust is built in uncertainty. That is why this season feels uncomfortable. Because you are being trained to rely on something bigger than what you can see. Maybe right now your life feels delayed, but what you call delay, God calls alignment, because He is not just preparing the blessing, He's also preparing the person who will carry it. And that person is you. But not the version of you that is afraid. Not the version of you that gives up easily. Not the version of you that breaks under pressure. God is shaping a stronger version of you. You see, every closed door was not rejection, it was redirection. Every no was not punishment, it was protection. Every delay was not failure, it was timing. And even though you may not understand it right now, one day you will look back and realize, if that door had opened back then, I would have missed my destiny. Now let me speak directly to you. If you are still watching this, if something inside you still feels like, do not expect the timing of your life to make sense while you are still inside the process. Because when you are inside the storm, you cannot see the direction of the wind. But God is never confused about where your life is going. Even when you are unsure, He is not. Even when you are anxious, He is not. Even when you feel stuck, He is still moving pieces in your favor. And now the truth you need to understand is this. What you are calling delay, heaven is calling protection, because not everything you are praying for is ready for you yet. And not everything you want is what you need in this season. Sometimes God delays things because He is saving you from versions of life you cannot yet see. You may think the opportunity is perfect, but God sees the hidden cost. You may think the relationship is right, but God sees the future pain. You may think the door should open now, but God sees the disaster behind it. So He delays it, not to punish you, but to protect you. And this is where most people struggle. Because human logic says, if it's good, it should happen now. But divine wisdom says, if it's right, it will happen at the right time. There is a difference between what you want quickly and what God wants perfectly. Let me tell you something important. In your waiting season, something is happening that you cannot feel, but you must believe. Your foundation is being strengthened. Your patience is being trained. Your emotional strength is being rebuilt. Your identity is being reshaped, because the version of you that receives the blessing must be able to handle it without breaking. Think about pressure. When pressure increases, most people think something is going wrong, but pressure is exactly what creates diamonds. Without pressure, there is no transformation. Without resistance, there is no strength. Without delay, There is no preparation. And maybe right now, life feels like pressure from every side. Nothing is moving forward. Everything feels stuck. Oh, you were trying, but the results are not showing. And in that silence, doubt tries to enter. But listen carefully. Silence is not absence. Silence is construction. God is working in areas you cannot see. Behind closed doors, behind delays, behind disappointments, behind every moment you thought you were forgotten. And here is something deeper you must understand. If everything in your life came easily, you would never recognize its value. If everything came instantly, you would never grow into it. If everything came without delay, you would never develop strength. So sometimes God allows the waiting to build wisdom inside you. Because what is coming next in your life is not small. It is not ordinary. It is not average. It is something that will require emotional strength, mental stability, and spiritual grounding. And God is not going to give you a future you are not prepared for. So while you are waiting for the blessing, God is building the version of you who can carry it. Now there is a kind of silence that confuses the human mind. It is not the silence of peace. It is the silence of waiting. You pray, but there is no immediate answer. You try, but nothing changes. You believe, but nothing moves. And in that silence, a dangerous thought begins to creep in. Maybe God is not listening, but that thought is one of the biggest lies you will ever hear. Because silence is not absence. Silence is process. God does not always speak in loud, obvious moments. Sometimes He speaks through hidden preparation. Because while you are waiting for a visible answer, He is working on invisible details, things you cannot see, connections you cannot understand, timing you cannot predict. And here is something you must understand deeply. If God answered every prayer immediately, you would never develop faith. You would only develop expectation without trust. But God is not just building your life, He is building your trust in Him. There are moments when heaven seems quiet, but spiritually, it is incredibly active. Doors are being arranged, people are being positioned, opportunities are being prepared, and the version of you that is required for your next season is being shaped in silence. Think about a farmer. He plants seeds, and then he waits. But during that waiting period, something powerful is happening beneath the surface. Roots are growing deeper, strength is forming, stability is developing, and on the surface, nothing seems to be happening. But that hidden stage is the most important part of the entire harvest. Your life is no different. You are not in a season of delay. You are in a season of building roots. And roots are not glamorous. They are not visible. They are not celebrated. But they are the reason a tree survives the storms that come later. So when you feel like nothing is happening, that may be the very moment the deepest work is taking place. Now listen carefully. God's silence is not rejection. It is strategy. Because if He revealed everything all at once, you would not grow. And if you did not grow, you would not be able to handle what is coming next. There is a future version of your life that requires emotional strength you do not yet have. There are opportunities ahead that require discipline you are still learning. There are blessings coming that require wisdom you are still developing. So God slows the process, not to stop you, but to prepare you. And this is where most people quit. They quit during the silence. They quit while waiting. They quit when nothing seems to be happening. But the people who succeed are not the ones who receive quick answers. They are the ones who endured the silent seasons. Because silence tests one thing more than anything else: your consistency, your belief, your patience, your ability to trust without seeing the evidence. And if you are still here, still watching, still holding on, that already reveals something powerful about. Every great story has a season that nobody envies. It is the chapter filled with uncertainty, the chapter where nothing seems to make sense, the chapter where every step forward feels like 2 steps backward. And if you're living in that chapter right now, I want you to know something. You are not reading the end of your story. You are reading the middle. And the middle is always messy. When people see someone successful, they usually admire the victory. They celebrate the achievement. They applaud the breakthrough. But very few people ever see the lonely nights, the unanswered prayers, the tears no one witnessed, the moments when quitting seemed easier than believing. Those hidden moments are where true strength is built. God often develops your character before he changes your circumstances, because your greatest blessing can become your greatest burden if your character is not ready to carry it. That is why this season matters. It is shaping who you are becoming, not just what you will receive. Think about an athlete preparing for a championship. The audience only sees the final performance. They don't see the early mornings, the exhausting training, the sacrifices, the discipline. Without those difficult days, there would be no victory to celebrate. Your spiritual journey works the same way. This season is your training ground. Right now, you may feel overlooked. You may feel forgotten. You may wonder why other people seem to be moving ahead while you're still waiting. But comparison is one of the quickest ways to lose your peace. God is not writing someone else's story through your life. He is writing your story, and your story has its own timing. Never mistake someone else's chapter 20 for your chapter 4. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's preparation is different. Everyone's purpose is different. Stay focused on what God is doing in your own life. There are moments when your greatest battle is not against failure. It is against discouragement. Discouragement whispers, nothing will ever change. You've waited too long. Just give up. But faith answers, God has never failed me. Even when I cannot see his hand, I can still trust his heart. Every obstacle you face is teaching you something. Patience, humility, wisdom, perseverance, strength. These lessons cannot always be learned through comfort. Sometimes they can only be learned through struggle. Imagine if every prayer were answered immediately. You would never learn endurance. You would never truly appreciate the blessing. You would never discover how strong your faith could become. The waiting season is not empty. It is full of preparation. One day, the opportunity you've been praying for will arrive. And when it does, you'll realize something amazing. You are no longer the same person who first prayed that prayer. You have grown. You have matured. You have become someone capable of handling what God is giving you. There comes a moment in every person's life when they look back and finally understand something they could never understand while they were living through it. They realize that every disappointment, every delay, every rejection, every painful goodbye was not working against them. It was working for them. At the time, it felt impossible to believe. Every closed door looked like failure. Every unanswered prayer felt like silence. Every setback seemed like proof that nothing good was coming. But God was writing a story they could not yet read. Imagine standing in front of a giant mountain. From where you stand, it blocks your entire view. You think the mountain is stopping your journey. But if you could see from God's perspective, you would discover that the mountain is actually protecting you from dangers you cannot yet see. Sometimes what looks like an obstacle is actually God's shelter. Many people spend years asking, why didn't that opportunity work out? Why did that relationship end? Why did I lose that job? Why did I have to go through so much pain? The answers rarely come immediately, but with time, wisdom begins to replace confusion. You begin connecting the pieces, and suddenly you realize if that first door had opened, you would have missed the better one. God never promises an easy journey. He promises his presence throughout the journey. And that difference changes everything. Because peace does not come from having a perfect life. Peace comes from knowing you are not walking alone. Right now, there are things happening that you cannot measure. Your prayers are shaping your heart. Your struggles are building endurance. Your waiting is strengthening your faith. Every single day you refuse to give up is becoming part of your testimony. Think about gold. Before it shines, it must pass through intense fire. The fire is not destroying the gold. It is removing everything that does not belong. The same is true for your life. This season is removing fear, removing pride, removing doubt, removing everything that would keep you from becoming the person God created you to be. You may still have questions. You may still wonder how everything will work out. That is completely normal. Faith has never meant having every answer. Faith means taking the next step, even when you cannot see the entire path. One step, then another, until one day you look behind you and realize how far God has already brought you. There was a time when you thought you would never survive your hardest day, but here you are, still standing, still believing, still moving forward. That alone is evidence that God has been carrying you. even when you thought you were walking by yourself. Do not underestimate small progress. A single step taken every day becomes an incredible journey over time. A single prayer offered with sincerity can strengthen a weary heart. A single decision not to quit